At one point or another, we probably all wish we could meet our idols, but what would it look like? Well, Scott Lynn, a local veteran radio and TV sports broadcaster who wanted to find out if sports heroes ever met their idols. So if so, what was it like? Well, he joins me now with some of those stories. And Scott, I've already had a blast talking with you, I gotta say.
I know.
I mean, we are just like old buddies here. And the fact that you got this idea, which I'm assuming a lot of people have this idea, but you made it happen. Why did you decide to do it?
Well, first of all, I was in radio and TV, working in Portland, Oregon. That's where I spent most of my career, although I did work here in town for a time back in the 70s. I was working so many hours and so many days straight that I just realized I had written one book, I wanted to write another one, but I just didn't have time to do it at that time. So I thought, well, what could I ask these various pro athletes that I had access to that would hold up over time, that I could wait until I retired and then be able to dive into this book project? And I thought, well, I'll ask all these athletes, who was their very first childhood hero? Did you ever get a chance to meet them? If so, did they live up to your expectations, or did they break your heart? Those kinds of stories is what I wanted to find out. And in this book, I also asked them about their careers and special moments and their families. And it's a lot more than just a list of who was your favorite person growing up. But it really gives good insight into how these athletes, many of them Hall of Famers, how they got their start and what drove them early on in their lives.
I will say it's so fabulous to hear you say that you had this idea when you had access to the athletes. Yeah. My mom always was on me to write a journal of the sportscast people that I got to meet, and I never did. So I regret that. Yeah. But you being able to capitalize on it. Was there any special athlete that you met that maybe you were surprised at their answer, or surprised at maybe their antidote that they shared with their hero? Yeah,
there were a few, actually. And the way I posed the question was, who was your first childhood idol? So it really ran the gamut. It was parents, it was a high school coach or a grade school coach, a cousin, a brother, a sibling. It wasn't always just a sports figure. And so I think we found out a lot of different things about these athletes. But as far as a surprise, I think maybe my biggest surprise was Mike Glenn, who was an NBA player. He played at Southern Illinois University, and then he ended up playing for the Atlanta Hawks for many years. Not a big star, but he was a guy who made it and had a 10-plus year career in the NBA. His very first idol was a girl basketball player from the Georgia School for the Deaf. His dad was the coach of the Georgia School for the Deaf team, and Mike Glenn told me she had the prettiest jump shot. And so he started to pattern his jump shot after this young girl. And he met her later in life, but working within that system, it really changed Mike's life. He is still today very involved with the hearing impaired, those who have trouble hearing. He actually runs a camp, I think it's 35, 36 straight years. He's run a free camp for kids with hearing impairment.
Wow. You know, and one of the things, I know there's special athletes that we wanted to focus. Tampa, there's a few that are in the book that maybe Tampa Bay sports fans would be a little interested to know about.
Well, from the Lightning, former All-Star Brian Bradley. Talked about his childhood hero. One thing I didn't know about Brian was he grew up, and Wayne Gretzky was a friend of his brother's and used to come over to his house all the time. So he goes, I guess I'd have to say Wayne Gretzky because I knew him when he was a kid. And he talked about how he ended up playing in an NHL All-Star game on the same line with Wayne Gretzky. So how about that? They were neighborhood kids hanging out in their house, and they end up playing in an NHL All-Star game. But Steve Garvey, Brittany Lincecum, Phil Esposito, the founder of the Lightning. Those are some of the locals.
I will say, too, I was going to say, and Amy's going to kill me right now. Okay, I do want to ask, though, Mario Andretti. We just got to meet him for the first time not too long ago. I know that's a funny story. I'm so sorry to our producer right now.
Okay. Mario Andretti told me a story about his son, Michael, who was a great driver himself. But he said when Michael was in elementary school, his teacher was asking all the kids, where does your dad work? What do your parents do? And the teacher asked Michael, knowing that he was a world-famous race car driver, Mario Andretti, a legendary driver, and Michael says, well, he's a baker. And the teacher said, wait a minute, your dad's a baker? And Mario was telling me the story. He says, yeah, he says, I guess he got this because every single time I would leave to go to the airport, to leave for a race, I would always say, well, time for Dad to go make the bread.
Oh, nice. I love that. On that one, we have got to end. Scott, good stories. Thank you so much for coming in. Once again, check out his book, Sports Idols.